Today, Denver is back for our Unfiltered episode. What should the United States president be doing if he wanted to actually help Ukraine instead of Putin? We discuss the president's war on mail in voting, and talking about slavery as part of American history is apparently now too woke. Plus, the U.S. Navy is off the coast of Venezuela. RFK Jr. is taking on pediatricians now, and Governor Gavin Newsom decides to act like a juvenile to shed light on our president, who acts like a juvenile. This is Truth in the Barrel, a different kind of whiskey rebellion.
I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome, everyone, to Truth in the Barrel. I'm Amy McGrath. Co-host Denver Riggleman is back. How are you, Den?
I am good. I was just, we were talking beforehand, Amy. If I never have any more airplane champagne, I'm happy. And by the way, that sounds like a country song. I don't even know why.
Airplane champagne.
That's right. I don't want no more airplane champagne. Yeah. But no, it's good to be back. My company has sort of bloomed.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to take control, but it's really nice to see you. And I know you've had some great shows, sort of got some FOMO. So, but no, it's been fun to watch you, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. But folks, if you missed the live show last Tuesday, check it out. Apple, Spotify, YouTube. I can't say all the different platforms we're on, but find the platform that you like. Go back, listen to that show. We had a great show with JoJo from Jurors, Joanne Carducci. She's a suburban mom, social media influencer. Man, she's a hoot. Loved doing the show with her, and but certainly love having you back, Denver, for Unfiltered today.
I'm excited. I mean, it's not like we don't have anything to talk about, Amy.
I know. We're gonna get right into it, but something that you said right before we started this show, Denver, I wanted you to talk about real quick is your distillery and how the tariffs are really hurting that business.
Yeah, we've, we saw this ripple effect, Amy, about a month ago. There was distilleries closing down, but a lot of businesses that were having trouble with their supply chains. And we knew that even though other companies had been hoarding supplies, right, that it was going to hit us at some point. And we got hit. About 7 days after the PPI report, I told my wife, I'm like, we're going to get hit. I said, I don't see any way around the glass, because you can only get glass really from India, Mexico, or China. I mean, those are the three big places for bottle glass, like this, right?
Right.
So that's really what it is. So when we got the email, my wife called me. She goes, honey, and my wife's a tough lady. We have gone through hell in the spirits business since COVID. And the COVID surcharges on a lot of this haven't been taken off yet. So we're still dealing with COVID surcharges years later. Well, we got an email, Amy, that said we were having a 14% increase in wholesale glass, corks, things like that, with another 25% increase coming that directly aligned with the tariffs from the Trump administration, directly aligned. And I don't think people realize we have to make decisions. We either have to raise our prices, cut labor, or cut out bottle lines. That's it. There's no other way, because the margins in the liquor business in certain states like Virginia, which are 10 times worse than doing business in Kentucky, it's ridiculous, right? So you also have the state mandated tax loads that aren't being lessened at all. They're actually being increased. So now we have this exponential growth, but the direct, here we go. I hope people can understand this. The direct tariff line is this: tariffs passed on to wholesalers, passed on to retailers, passed on to consumers.
Right. Yep.
That's it. There's no other. I try to, but
it's a tax.
It's a tax. My mind explodes when you talk to people who've never actually run a company before, or have no idea how economics work, or just can't understand fifth grade English.
Well, but it's also the American people haven't really experienced tariffs before. So like a lot of people don't really understand or know what they are, because we haven't had leaders that have been so stupid to institute these massive 1920s, 30s type of tariffs. And so we're not used to it. And so it does require some explaining. And, and it is what it is right now.
It's brutal. And
Yeah.
I hope, and I know it's going to pass down. It's so funny. The economists are like, listen, there's going to be a 6 to 12 month lag on tariff increase and an exploding PPI, which is the producer's price index, and then you have the CPI, which is the consumer price index. The PPI correlates to the CPI. That means that higher production costs and tariffs create a situation where there's inflation based on a artificial tax that's imposed based on tariffs and the rising costs of goods. So economics 101. Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't
No,
mean to get
no,
into that.
it's important though. So, but we have other things we got to talk about. So
Yes, ma'am.
Denver, during the live show, okay, just a few days ago, a listener who actually sort of seemed to really want to give the president some praise, or at least defend the president with this disastrous Alaska meeting. He asked what I thought was a fair question of JoJo and I, and he basically asked, "Well, what would you do about Putin if you were president?" Okay. Um, I think that's a fair question. And look,
It is.
everybody wants peace, and I don't blame President Trump for talking with Vladimir Putin. I think the way he did it was weak and inept. Bringing Putin to the United States, rolling out the red carpet, complete with a flyover that costs millions of dollars, by the way. And
Oh, yeah.
this was after saying to the world that there would be consequences should Putin not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine. And guess what, folks? Putin didn't agree to a ceasefire, didn't agree
No.
to anything. And did Trump follow through with any consequences? No. So right now, in my mind, Trump is already rewarding Putin because he's giving him more time to attack. And this meeting that you saw in the Oval Office a few days ago, at the beginning of the week, the meeting that was called, historic by the Republicans who are all defending this, that took place. It took place because our allies could not trust Trump, could not trust that he wouldn't sell out Ukraine. So I want to get back to the question and kick it over to you because I have some thoughts. But what should Trump and the United States be doing about Putin if you don't like what has currently been going on?
So, I go back to Ukraine a third time. Um, I've been dealing with Eastern Europe my entire life in the intel field and in the military field. I know how they act. I think right now I probably know more than the whole intelligence apparatus because they got fired by Tulsi Gabbard, right? So here's where I'm thinking. We have to fund Ukraine on a level we've never funded before. My guess is, as we set at a monthly allotment in the billions to make sure that they're tracking inventories, we need to send our own supply specialist over there and advisors to ensure that material is being used efficiently. But we also need to increase the amount of drone support that we're giving, that we should give also. We should be learning about drone support over there. But here's what I would tell Putin, and this is if it was President Riggleman. Here's what we're going to do. If you don't withdraw immediately, we're going to increase our military aid, but we're going to expedite NATO membership for Ukraine, which means as soon as they're part of NATO, we will invoke Article 5. Sociopaths only feel pain. There is no other way to deal with Putin than through maximum force. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, Denver. Oh my God. You're awful. You're a warmonger. I'm going to get that, right? No, Putin is a warmonger.
Mhm.
America is supposed to stand up for countries that are democratically, based, institutionally based, but also protecting their sovereign territory. So for me, it's rearming Ukraine, advisors for efficient resources, right? Efficient use of resources, ensuring we're getting lessons learned, increasing our drone material and parts shipments into there because we are now into a drone warfare. And lastly, after all that, with Article 5 threats and NATO threats, is we enforce a no-fly zone. And that is what I would do.
That's very bold. to say. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
There's you can make a good case for all of that. I think, first of all, Putin is the one who started this war.
Yes.
Not Zelensky, not NATO, no one else. Putin is the one who wants this war to continue. And I think you have to take a step back and take a look at what has been done so far. Okay. So the war was started in 2022. So how did the rest of the world, the United States, the EU respond? What did the last administration do? Biden put sanctions on Russia. The EU put sanctions on Russia. Russia's foreign assets have been frozen. The majority of Russian banks have been cut off from the global banking system. We've sent weapons and lots of aid, both Europe and the United States, to Ukraine for it to defend themselves. Okay. And so that's what happened during the Biden administration. We got 2 new members into NATO. So we've started to beef up NATO. NATO is starting to increase their defense spending. Okay. So all of that started under the last administration, continued under this administration. However, since Trump has been in the White House, he has been all over the place. Okay. Russian attacks have gotten worse.
Oh,
And
yes.
there have been no severe consequences that he keeps talking about. Okay. There's no more sanctions. He hasn't instituted any more sanctions. He's actually eased off of some sanctions. There's been no ceasefire. Russia has no motive under Trump, during the Trump administration, to stop what he's doing. There's no severe cost to what he's doing right now, thanks to, in my mind, to Donald Trump. So what can be done? I agree with a lot of what you said. More sanctions. We don't need to ease them off. We need to put more. We need to give Ukraine more weapons. Don't cut them off. Don't cut them off from intelligence sharing. Give them more. Okay. The secondary sanctions could be done, and I think that term has been thrown around a lot lately. Secondary sanctions. A lot of people may not know what that is. Can you explain what secondary sanctions are?
You're talking about downstream sanctions?
Yeah.
So that's anybody who deals with a primary sanctioned country is also sanctioned based on how they act, with support on that. That's really what it is. And I can explain it. I'll give you a micro example. Are you ready for secondary sanctions? Okay. So you have a company, right? So you have a company that's doing business with a sanctioned partner, and you have another company that comes in, right, that wants to do business with a partner outside of that specific sanctions threshold. So let me put it to you this way. So a non-EU partner comes in to a EU sanctioned company based on the Russian war and say they want to buy assets or do some type of transaction. The issue that they're going to have is if they roll into there, they could be subject to, Amy, secondary sanctions, because those secondary sanctions roll down to that entity regardless if they're in the primary sanctions node or in that mold. And I've had to deal with this so many times on the Financial Services Committee. So when you're looking at secondary sanctions, and I'm trying to the more I try to make this simple, the more I'm making it more complex. But I'm sorry, Amy. I apologize.
It's okay.
But the issue is that there is a complexity to this, because secondary sanctions say you're dealing in a specific asset, and you try to end run those sanctions and grab that asset or trade that asset, you are automatically under the sanctioned platform, which means you can't do business with the primary sanctioned partners at all, regardless if you're a member of the EU or NATO or a US entity. You can't do business with them, and you're sanctioned. So I hope that helps to explain it.
Yeah. No. So in the case of Russia right now, I always tell people, the Russian economy is a one-hit wonder, right?
It's natural resources.
Right. It's oil, it's natural gas, it's natural resources. Okay.
That's it.
That is how they fund, that is their whole economy. So
Yes.
Russia has been sanctioned so much since the start of this war by the EU and the United States. And so in order to keep its revenues up, it has to trade oil, which it has, with all these other countries, China, India, Turkey, the UAE. And so it does that. So secondary sanctions in the case of Russia would be the United States and the EU proposing things like punishing those other countries or businesses in those other countries for taking the oil, for doing business with Russia. So you're punishing the third party country so that they aren't incentivized to now do business with Russia. So in the case of Russian energy, the United States is a bipartisan bill, which I would love to see passed. It's legislation that would enable 500% tariffs. Now, we hate tariffs, but on goods from countries that buy or sell Russian oil and natural gas. So that's pretty bold. I don't know if it'll pass, but like that's what secondary sanctions are. If you really wanted to squeeze Russia, you could do
I
that.
would say even if it's passed, it'll be vetoed. And I think, when you're looking at what happened, oh, by the way, Amy, this is a great topic, secondary sanctions, because now we can talk about, Ukraine and Putin and also Zelensky. When is the Putin-Zelensky meeting scheduled? Have you heard? I know this was a historic summit, but when is this scheduled?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Maybe they'll have it in the Arctic.
Well, I think Putin said, "Hey, I'll meet with him if he comes to Moscow," and I'm like, Zelensky's like, nothing above the second floor, please. No meetings.
Antarctica or the Arctic may be the only country that's not going to arrest Putin if he comes.
I don't even. Well, they might. They might. But I do fear. I think Zelensky does fear heights if he goes to Russia. And I think he doesn't. He wants to make sure there's ground floor level meetings because he doesn't want to fall out of a window. I think also there's no way Zelensky's going to Moscow. But here's the other thing, Amy, and this is you're on it. Let's talk about sort of secondary assholes, right? So when you're talking about secondary sanctions and you're going to this, why? How can Putin call Zelensky a Nazi as a Jewish president, say all these incredible things on the disinformation side and propaganda side, call him evil, and then meet with him? Putin has to save face. There is no way Putin meets with him on neutral territory. Just want to let you know. I just don't see it happening.
Well, and there's no way that Russia is going to, or Putin is going to agree to any type of security guarantee. The last weekend, Witkoff and Rubio get on TV and everybody's talking about security guarantees. And that's a good thing. I would love to see Ukraine get a security guarantee. I was shocked when Witkoff said Article 5 like security guarantees. I was like, man, for real? Because if you're talking Article 5, folks, that is like NATO. You might as well be in NATO, which
might as well.
That would be great. It's just that Russia is never going to go with that. So, this is a problem.
Well, you saw J.D. Vance trying to backtrack with his own comments about calling Putin well-mannered, very soft-spoken, really cares about the Russian people. I mean, you talk about fifth column BS. It's just amazing to me, Amy. As soon as they come out tough, I think Trump's like, no. I have business interests in Russia, and it's more important that I get Trump Tower Moscow than what the American people or Ukrainian people have to deal with.
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, look, we were all hopeful when some of this stuff was happening over the weekend, but I had a bad feeling that nothing was going to happen, and it could actually make it worse. I don't think right now. I'm not sure it's made it worse, except to say that it's definitely giving Vladimir Putin more time, more leeway to bomb people.
Oh, I mean, the night after the meetings, Amy, I'm getting videos from Ukraine of people in Kyiv and other towns, because I know them personally, like Denver. Look outside my window and you see an explosion. You hear the buzzing of drones, Shaheds or FPVs. And the attacks the following evening were absolutely massive. After the meeting with Zelensky and Trump. Yeah.
Well, we're going to move on because there's a lot of other things to talk about.
So much.
Denver, I want to ask you, what is wrong with mail-in voting? The president came down or wants to come down with an executive order to get rid of mail-in ballots and voting machines, lying, of course, saying that they're inaccurate. Now, this whole action by the president, backed up by Republicans, right? Everything that he does is totally backed up by all these Republicans.
They're cowards.
Yeah,
all of them.
Totally. This action isn't about, in my mind, it's not about making voting or elections more secure. It's about scaring people, and it's about trying to lay the groundwork to not accept the midterm election results. And that should alarm people in my mind.
Well, I mean, you have an L-shaped ambush at every polling station, right? I mean, Amy, if there's no mail-in voting or there's no voting machines, and now you have this paper ballot and you're in this long line, intimidation happens, right? Or why wouldn't you have DHS or ICE out there looking for anybody who doesn't look like us, right, to see if they have their papers? I mean, it's ludicrous. Mail-in voting and voting machines work. It's very, very technologically specific, but it also is validated. It's data validated voting methodologies. Here's the thing. It's obviously unconstitutional. The states control their own voting, right? I don't know, but our Supreme Court is bought and paid for by the Federal Society and Heritage, and you're like, Denver, you're talking this way. Oh my God. Well, of course they are. Look at the way they've been. It's ludicrous, right? We can't keep trying to dance around some of the things that seeing, because I know how Republicans act probably better than most, because, oh, by the way, I was a Republican congressman and during Trump's term, yay, the first one. So, but I think that's the issue here, right? This is about intimidation. So here's how you really steal elections. In 2020, it wasn't Dominion or Smartmatic or broken algorithms or Chinese servers, all of it made up by the Donald Trump administration and filtered through social media influencers all the way to January 6th in the coup attempt. In 2024, there wasn't a stolen election by Starlink and Elon Musk. Sorry, Democrats, that didn't happen either. Mm-hmm. That's a conspiracy theory. However, the way to steal an election is to disenfranchise voters through process, laws, and intimidation beforehand. This is how you steal an election, is by limiting. It's through subtraction. The Republicans have to win by subtraction. That's the only way they can win, based on demographics and what this economy is going to do, because stupidity is terminal. And as we talked about tariffs, it's going to crash. There's just no way around it. This is going to happen. So now we're to a point where the only way they can win is through this sort of bizarre legislation, executive orders that are blatantly unconstitutional. And then you have a Supreme Court that we have to count on to tell us what we already know. And I am not quite sure that will happen.
Yeah, I mean, and this is what you're seeing in Texas with the gerrymandering.
Yes.
I mean, but the Trump's social media post when he talked about this, and maybe Doug can throw this up there, is, I quote, "They must do what the federal government, as represented by the President of the United States, tells them for the good of the country to do," meaning, like, he's telling them, I'm going to have this executive order. I'm going to get rid of mail-in ballots. I'm going to get rid of voting machines. And he's saying, they have to do what the federal government tells them to do. That, as you just mentioned, that's bullshit.
It's bullshit. It's not even American. That's just fascist authoritarian
Article 1,
bullshit.
Section 4 gives the power to the states to determine the, quote, manner of elections. The word manner, that's mail-in voting falls under the word manner, folks. Okay, so it's in the Constitution. And then second point is, he got apparently this idea. He's had it for a while, but he got like re-energized about this idea from who? Vladimir Putin.
From Vlad, the bare-chested horse rider.
Democracy tips, Denver, from a dictator. Okay, and then three other countries. A host of other countries, as well as the United States, do mail-in voting. And there's like no significant fraud in mail-in voting in the United States.
Nope.
And all of this happened, by the way, on the same day that Newsmax was told that they have to pay $67 million to Dominion voting systems, because Newsmax spread false claims that the voting systems and that voting technology was, rigged. They said it was rigged in 2020, and of course it wasn't. It's just like, it's almost unbelievable. But mail-in voting, I have used mail-in voting for almost my entire adult life. Certainly the 24 years in the military. And what a lot of people have to realize is mail-in voting, all of our military members use mail-in voting. Anybody that is a like an airline pilot or has a job, goes to other countries like as you do for business a lot. Guess what? We can't always be around on election day. It also is really important for like elderly people, people who can't get out, handicapped people. This is like dumb. This is really dumb.
What is that meme with the woman yelling and it's the cat sitting there? Do you know what I'm talking about? And the woman's yelling, but it's absentee voting. The GOP is screaming that mail-in voting and absentee voting is different. And then the cat's like, are they mailing it? You know what I mean? I mean, of course, it's so ridiculous when they try to quibble over unconstitutional policies because they're a bunch of little authoritarian loving, mouth breathers. And it's just, you're just like, Jesus, they're just so ridiculous. But, Putin giving election tips is like Jeffrey Dahmer giving cuisine tips. It's ridiculous. You know what I mean? I mean, it's ludicrous that the guy who interfered in our 2016 elections and 2020 elections, let's be honest, this is, disinformation. Oh, and by the way, Tulsi Gabbard just got rid of the foreign malign influence shop. Just want everybody to know. And the Global Engagement Center is also gone. So we're not tracking any foreign disinformation to manipulate our elections anymore, Amy. That's a little odd.
Yeah.
But I just find it amazing right now that mail-in voting, right? Using machines, fine. Everything's validated. And the fact that they're trying to intimidate people by going to all paper ballots, disenfranchising, trying to gerrymander during midterms, right? Think about this, right? Midterm gerrymandering in Texas is because they know they're going to lose the majority. That's why they did it. Absolutely. Every state should retaliate based on what Texas is doing. But the issue that you have is this. Here's the long-term issue. We have no working democracy anymore because we really have no swing districts anymore. Now, what do? Now we're into literally almost a political civil war every 2 years as we're going through these election cycles. I think it calls for a third party. I know that's another thing at some point. But that's the issue, right? Gerrymandering is going to destroy this country, regardless of who does it. But the Republicans decide to weaponize it during the midterms because of how badly they're doing. It's that simple.
It's terrible. I mean, we've had gerrymandering for a long time. It happens after the census, which is also in the Constitution. You take a census every 10 years, right? And you figure out where people are at, and then you reallocate and reproportion representatives based on that. And what the Republicans are doing right now is breaking that. It's saying, oh, we don't like. We're in the middle of the decade. We're not going to wait until the census to redistrict. We're gonna do it right now. Because we're afraid we're going to lose the midterms. I mean, there's just, it's so undemocratic, un-American.
The census conspiracy theories are coming out, right? All the Democrats, the globalists and the deep staters have been making sure that illegals are counted in the census for disproportionate voting. So that conspiracy theory is out there right now. The brilliance of the Republicans is that they've learned how to mine ignorance on a level that all of us have a tough time understanding. And so they're using ignorance as a weapon, and they're using superior technology to weaponize ignorance through social media and through AI specific targeting and algorithmic targeting. So, you have census conspiracy theories, right? You have California's evil, even though Texas is the one doing the gerrymandering. So you have this algorithmic targeting to this massive zombie army that's just going to parrot these talking points at Thanksgiving dinners and while they're out at Rite Aid. And I think that's an issue that we're going to be fighting for the rest of our adult lives.
Yeah. And we got to figure out how to counter that quick. I mean,
yes,
that's a big deal.
Well, yeah, there's no talking these people out of their stuff anymore, Amy. I think it's confrontation time. I mean, I'm talking about confrontational. Like, you don't let them say anything that goes unchecked if it's ridiculous. You have to say, nah, you're full of shit. Here's why.
Yeah. No, good point. All right. Well, Denver, the war on woke and DEI has come to the Smithsonian now. It seems that MAGA and Republicans want to make slavery not so bad again. The president wants Smithsonian to change its exhibits. It's sent a memo. Apparently, the president. I never thought the president even went to a museum before, but apparently he really cares about this. And it's not just, I know what's in the headlines about the Smithsonian, but it's bigger than that. the National Park Service unveiled plans to rebuild a statue
Unbelievable.
commemorating a man by the name of Albert Pike, who was a Confederate brigadier general, a few blocks from the U.S. Capitol. Arlington
insane.
National Cemetery, the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth, who just, loves the whole white supremacist thing. He wants to bring back the Confederate monument that was in Arlington National Cemetery for a long time. It had been there since 1914 when it was installed. It was installed there during the Jim Crow era, right? And the goal of the monument was to, back in 1914 when they put it up, was to bring out or show the positive aspects of the Confederate movement. I mean, that was the goal of the monument itself. And so, this is making America great again, apparently.
Well, to use, I don't know why I'm in serial killer references today, but it's like a statue of John Wayne Gacy at the Clown Museum, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But it's not. It's beyond ridiculous. I'm in Virginia. You're in Kentucky. We know about Confederate history. We know about the lost cause mythology. We know they try to say this wasn't about slavery, it's about states' rights. Well, the states' rights were so they could keep slaves. The fact that we're talking about, first of all, Pike, some one-star loser, right, to be reinstated is so egregious to the American mind, to people like me and you, Amy. I don't even know how to react to making slavery acceptable again. I don't have the words to characterize how appalled I am that we have an administration that's so Christo-fascist and also nationalist, but white nationalist, that we don't have the press. And Amy, I mean, this is a question I want to ask you. When does the press stop reporting on the best moisturizer on ABC Morning News and start talking? I'm serious, by the way. I watched it in the morning. I'm like, what's happening? There's so much happening, from Tulsi Gabbard to Hegseth to Kash Patel to J6 being relitigated, which is what this is all about with the machines, as you know, in the paper ballots. This goes back to the 2020 conspiracy theories. They're actually messaging to their voters. At what point does media, and I don't think they do because they're click whores, honestly, but even Joe Scarborough talking about Gavin Newsom rather than what Trump is doing, and obviously we're going to get into that. But I don't understand, Amy, and I want you to help me understand what the heck is happening with media. I've been wanting to talk to you about this just on the phone, but where are we at?
I think it's becoming normalized. Here's the thing. The Department of Defense is spending $10 million to restore a monument in Arlington National Cemetery that shows the positive aspects of slavery, that idolizes the Confederacy traitors who wanted to uphold slavery. And Pete Hegseth is saying, well, we shouldn't have renamed all these bases, and we shouldn't have taken these, Confederate statues down. All that stuff is too woke. It's ridiculous. It should be front page news. This is crazy. And then let's go back to why these bases and these statues were taken down in the first place. By the way, it was passed by Congress that we would have a naming commission within the Department of Defense to look at all of these bases and that were named after Confederate traitors, bipartisan. Like both sides, looked at this and said, yeah, we shouldn't be like honoring slavery anymore. Okay. And so this naming commission was put together. Actually, the idea for it happened during the first Trump administration. And then it formed under the Biden administration. And I'm going to read you off some of the names, Denver, on this naming commission. Okay. Because, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump say it's too woke. All right. What they recommended. I'm gonna read you off some of these names.
I'm ready.
You tell me if these people are too woke. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Admiral, 4-star Admiral Michelle Howard. Okay. Kai Sidal, U.S. Army Brigadier General, historian, former United States Marine Corps Commandant, Robert Neller, General, 4-star, Corey Shockey, who is a scholar from the American Enterprise Institute. Is that too woke? Lieutenant General
I know that's
Tom
not what. No.
Bostic. Yeah, Lieutenant General, 3-star General Tom Bostic, Oklahoma businessman appointed by the ranking member of the Republican House Armed Services Committee on the Republican side from Oklahoma. Too woke, huh?
Yeah,
Republican congressman, you probably know him, Austin Scott from Georgia.
Oh, I know Austin.
Wow.
I know Austin well.
Is he too woke?
Austin
Lieutenant Colonel Romo
can't spell woke.
Lieutenant Colonel Romo from the United States Air Force. These people are not exactly screaming woke here.
No, they're not. Amy, I always thought you've got me here. Like onto a point.
These
I'm
are the
never
people
speechless.
that recommended, hey, change this stuff. It doesn't represent who we are as Americans. We shouldn't be celebrating these losers that were traitors to our country, who fought and killed U.S. soldiers in the Civil War to uphold the institution of owning other human beings. I mean, I'm sorry.
It's so egregious and evil. And again, I think we can't be afraid to use that word. We have an administration that's embracing the evil of slavery as some type of historical statement to talk to their base, to message for more votes in rural districts. There's a song by the Dropkick Murphys, First Class Loser. I don't think it was directly about Trump, right? But it's a song that really does sort of, I think it applies to Trump. And I think what you're looking at is, why are we celebrating losing on this level? Not only losing a war or losers in a separatist movement to leave the United States, but to support something as evil and heinous and dehumanizing as slavery. And we're spending money from the taxpayers' coffers to reinstitute.
$10 million.
Yeah,
for just that's just one. We haven't even talked about all the other ones.
That's what I'm saying, Amy. That's just the beginning, right? We're going to have this cascading effect of loser statues popping up everywhere, right? Loser here, loser there, loser over there. Look at all these losers, right? And what does that do to the African American population? I'm telling you right now, the media, this should be front page every day. But the other thing too is that I don't know how the GOP appeals to African American voters. And if the Democrats aren't smart enough to jump on all of this nonsense, I don't know what to tell you on that either. I just feel like my head's exploding. Media talking about moisturizers and just sort of calmly saying, well, there was never a meeting with Trump and Putin and Zelensky. But what a historic, it wasn't historic. It was ludicrous. It was showmanship in some gold-plated, gaudy hoodoo state. I don't even know what's happening, right? And so I think that's where when you got me here, because sometimes I can come up with a phrase that sort of encapsulates what I'm feeling, but I'm so angry and enraged from an administration this ignorant, it's hard for me to put into words where I'm at right now.
I mean, it's ludicrous to say that the commission filled with that many experienced military officers and scholars that are not exactly from, the left-wing institutions.
No,
at all,
but anybody
is somehow woke. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Anybody who accepts service. Well, I would say anybody who accepts service under Trump, you know who they are.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to whiskey, because we haven't, in a lot of the shows. I know it's been a while. I wanted to. I know you got something going on, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Maker's Mark. Okay, this is kind of like a favorite. This is a favorite in my family. So if you were to ask, like my mom, my dad, growing up, what was their favorite bourbon, growing up in Kentucky, they would always say Maker's Mark. And so, its signature thing is this right here, which is this
patented
wax seal, right? That goes on the top. And so I have one that I haven't opened yet, just to show everybody.
Look how beautiful.
It is beautiful. Look at that. It's the signature. And this makes it no bottle is exactly the same as another bottle because
That's
they
right.
hand dip them, into the wax. And did you know, Denver, that the people that do this can only work at that station for no more than 30 minutes because it's so hot,
It's got to move.
and
Yes.
yeah, so they can only do that for 30 minutes. The patent for this, well, the idea for it came from a woman. It was a couple that started Maker's Mark in 1953. And in 1955, the wife, her name was Margie Samuels. She was the one that had the idea for this, for like marketing, and she was also the one that came up with the bottle design. So the distiller, was her husband, and it was like his brand of whiskey or of bourbon, but it was her idea. So it was very much like you and your wife being sort of the husband-wife team there that created Maker's Mark, not only the whiskey itself or the bourbon itself, which is kind of like a sweeter wheat bourbon. It's very good, but also what makes Maker's Mark special is the marketing, right?
It is.
And that was her idea.
Christine's first full operational tour when she wanted to be a distiller was from Maker's Mark. And that is her hero. So when you were talking Maker's Mark, that's something special. Also, even though our first mash bill was sort of mimicked from Old Crow, she went to more of a wheat-based mash bill. Ours is very, very similar to Maker's Mark's mash bill. The other thing too, and I'm not trying to, I love like Maker's Mark and Four Roses small batch or single barrel are my favorite table bourbons, right? Mm-hmm. That's the one, that's my go-to, right? If I'm just chilling out, right? Every now and then I'll, jump to a Basil Hayden stuff. And, a lot of the times, go to bars, they think they have a lot of bourbon. They only have 10 brands. And if a Maker's is there, hey, Maker's on the rocks. You know how easy that is to say, Amy? Maker's on the rocks, right? So that's what I do. I have Maker's on the rocks. And I sound very cool when I do it. Can I get a Maker's on the rocks, please? Yeah. Do you have one big rock? So, so yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. So we love Maker's. They were so kind to Christine. They showed us how they do their chemical composition and why they actually break their barrels between 6 3/4, I think, in 7.5 years, and why they have to be so specific. And the barrel blends, they actually do chemical testing to make sure that the barrel blends match one to another. Brilliant company. Just very impressive, but also were so kind to us and helped Christine get started in the business.
That is awesome. And when this particular bottle here has my name etched in there.
Lieutenant we have
Colonel
one.
Amy McGrath, U.S. Marine Corps. That is this. It's really cool.
It is
and the
cool.
other thing is there's this seal right here that you've probably seen on the seal is a star with this SIV on there. Do you know what that is?
What is that, Amy?
So yeah, I talked about the wife in 1955, Margie Samuels. Her husband's name was Samuels. So like that was his name. I guess it was Samuel Samuels. I don't know. I have to look that up. But it's the S is for Samuels, which is the last name, and then the IV is the fourth generation.
Samuel's fourth generation.
It's his family and it's his name, and they have it stamped on there.
So I sort of knew, but I wanted to hear it from you, ma'am. And here's why I wanted to hear it from you, because I wanted to show you that Christine, I'm not going to say copied, but on her bottles is her Maker's Mark. As you know, the Maker's Mark is what's on the bottle. That's what that is, right? So I don't know if I can show everybody. Oh, I guess not. But her Maker's Mark is here, right? So if you look on the bottles with her signature, her Maker's Marks are on the bottles when she does her reserves. So her cork is a metal pewter cork. It's very heavy. Can also be used as a weapon, right? If you need to. But she took the Maker's Mark idea and incorporated it into her bottles based on Maker's Mark specifically.
Very cool. Love it. Love it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's get the quick shots. Cheers.
And I got a gold spot. Yeah, I got a gold spot here. So, but we can talk about that another time.
Good stuff. Oh, it's so good. All right. Let's get the quick shots. First one, we got 4 of them today. Okay. I think we got 3 or 4. JD Vance. has had these river levels, Little Miami River here in close to me in Southern Ohio. He had these river levels adjusted for his canoe trip with his family. And this caused a lot of controversy because, there are federal cuts going on right now to agencies dealing with recreation in America. But apparently it's okay for the Army Corps of Engineers to go in there, spend, a ton of time and resources or whatever, and up the levels for JD's recreation.
Where's Doge? Where's Doge? That's waste.
Cheers to the Army Corps of Engineers because they turn the switch and get it done. And I'm glad that JD could have a good, nice, fun time with his family.
Well, I'm glad Doge didn't cut the Army Corps of Engineers because his canoe would have been sitting on the rocks awkwardly while he's praising Putin.
I have actually kayaked and canoed many times on the Little Miami River. It is a fun thing to do, but I never got a chance
when I took my family
to actually raise the level of the water the way JD Vance has done.
Well, Amy, there's another quick shot here. Our good friend RFK Jr. has decided that he's going to go to war with the American Academy of Pediatrics over shots. And I want to read this.
Not the same shots that we're.
No, not these shots. God, Amy, you're so evil. I tell you. So here we go. Are you ready for this? Kennedy accused the group. Can I read it like a newscast?
Well,
Kennedy accused the group of engaging in a pay-to-play scheme to promote commercial ambitions of AAP's big pharma benefactors. Okay. The issue is the CDC dropped its recommendations, right, for the COVID shots. And the AAP is like, this is sort of ludicrous. And I think what we're getting with is we're talking about conspiracy theorists and delusionists and people like RFK Jr., who's mentally ill. Mm-hmm. He has to go back to this sort of conspiratorial thinking, this big pharma, sort of they're manipulating behind the scenes with the American Academy of Pediatrics to make sure they make a lot of money off the health of children. That's exactly what it is, Amy. Mm. And that's the thing that bothers me. I've told you that's stupid. The downstream effects are terminal. But right now, we're now using pseudoscience and homeopathic remedy science, right? Literally, I'm wondering if RFK Jr. is like the best way to fight disease is leeches to go against people who actually care about children. I think that's what gets to me.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope the American people recognize that you should not be listening to this man who unfortunately is in charge of a major department of our government in health. You shouldn't be listening to a guy who, I think he had a brain worm at one point.
He did.
Who does some just really terrible stuff and is an anti-vaxxer and all that. You should be listening to the doctors, like actual doctors.
I can't believe you're saying this, Amy.
It's kind of ludicrous to have to say that, but the actual doctors think that your children should be vaccinated, then you should listen to them.
I mean, I just can't believe that you think doctors are smarter than RFK Jr., Amy. I'm just really stunned right now. I don't know what to say. I tell you, pretty nuts.
So did you know, and I just found this out yesterday, Denver, that the United States Navy, so the Trump, the administration, the Department of Defense is sending 3 Navy Aegis cruisers to go off the coast of Venezuela to possibly do targeted strikes, I guess, against drug cartels.
It's
because
insane.
I don't know what else they would be doing out there. I mean, the Navy would need to have some Coast Guard law enforcement people with them if they're going to do counter narcotics types of stuff, so there's a lot of like laws involved in international laws involving this stuff. They don't have landing craft with them. So they're not like amphibious invading Venezuela, I guess, which is a good thing. So this is, I would call it a show of force. What do you think?
I think the Epstein files must be really bad. That's what I think. I think once we start sending cruisers off the coast of countries to distract from the Epstein files, I think we've jumped the shark. And this is all this is. I'm telling you, Amy, everything being done right now, and you're seeing the zone being flooded with shit, including expending billions. Where's Doge? right? To send cruisers off the coast of Venezuela to go after cartels. Really, that's where most of the cartels are, off the coast of Venezuela. Do you know how many cartels are around? I mean, there's other countries that have a lot more cartels than Venezuela. It's bullshit. This is actually a distraction for the American public based on delusions and conspiracy theories that are promulgated by the Trump administration. Much of this is how much they can do to distract from files from a pedophile that have Trump in there so many times they should be called the Trump files. That's what's happening. That's where we're at as a country, and I'm just tired of it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm gonna watch this. I don't really know what is
What's
up
gonna
with this
happen?
right now.
Nothing.
I
Nothing.
am fairly worried about this idea because it continues to keep popping up in the news. It also with Mexico and Venezuela of the United States military doing these types of targeted strikes against drug operatives. I mean, I think that's you're invading, you're attacking another country, and that should be concerning in my belief.
Well, I mean, Trump tries to, end run the Constitution by calling everything an emergency, right, Amy? And maybe this is just another emergency.
I mean, I'd like to stop the drug cartels. I'm not
Yeah.
sure that bombing a sovereign country
It's the way to go. Yeah, it's rough.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you alluded to it earlier in the show. Gavin Newsom is trolling Trump now in the same way that Trump is, in my belief, is totally juvenile on social media and has been for a long time. And it's really terrible for the office of the presidency. But now the governor of California is sort of giving him a taste of his own medicine. What are your thoughts on this?
Ooh, they're conflicted. They're very conflicted, but I will tell you this. I think it had to be done. And here's what I'm going to say. Have you seen how Fox and Newsmax and far-right people and Megyn Kelly are reacting to this? It's taking away from them spreading disinformation. It's taking away from their propaganda, right? He is taking away oxygen. It's like he's, what is it when you talk to a phone scammer so they don't talk to the next person, or they have these AI things now that'll talk to the phone scammer to keep them on the phone, right? To scam them, right? This is what's happening, right? You're looking at, listen, the GOP and MAGA are so mouth breathing. They're so ignorant. They're so ignorant that they're going to respond to this because it's a bright, shiny thing. It's like a raccoon reaching for a trinket. They can't help it, right? That it's cause and effect, right? It's just incredible stuff. And I think they sort of nailed it. Is it unserious? Yes. Does it mean our country is already in the toilet? Absolutely. It does. I mean, we have probably the 2028 Democratic nominee trying to mimic Trump to try to take away and to make fun of him as a troll, as the two people that are, sort of leading both parties. Newsom is the leader of the Democratic Party. There's no doubt about it. He has taken over because of this. But it is a sad, sad commentary in the United States of America that social media trolling now dictates who is the leading contender for the presidency of the United States.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm conflicted too. I mean, I feel like, part of me feels like this is a bit of a waste of time. We need to get back to talking about the real problems that we have. The Republicans just ripping away healthcare in terms of, slashing Medicaid, how that's going to hurt people so much with this bill that they just passed, the tariffs being terrible, prices gone up. We have a lot of problems in this country that we need to continue to tackle. And we have this going on. On the other hand, I do believe it is exposing the, I don't even know if this is a word, the juvenileness of the current president in a way that hasn't really been exposed before. When you kind of do it from the other side and you look at it, you're like, wow, our president does this kind of stuff all the time. These stupid posts, these AI images of, beefed up men with Donald Trump's head on them,
Little homoerotic. Homoerotic.
He like does this and we just, it's just Donald Trump. But when Newsom puts it out there, it is kind of like exposing that craziness in my mind.
Well, we know Trump likes bare-chested men that ride horses named Putin, right? So I think maybe they just embrace, who they are. But no, I think that's where we're at, is that I don't know what we do at this point, Amy. Me and you do laugh, and we try not to be too serious, because if you're not, laughing, you're crying. But this is really frightening. And it feels like Newsom had to do it. But it does show, when you talk about juvenile behavior or childishness, it looks like 8-year-olds in a slap battle. And I think but those 8-year-olds or people like Trump control $1 trillion military. So,
yeah,
that's what's scary, right? It's like it's the 12-year-old bully that's been held back twice in the 5th grade class. And I think, stealing people's milk money. And I think that's how MAGA acts. But also, I think Newsom felt he had to react to that.
Yeah, and this gets into our cheers, which is our final segment here. But one of the things with Gavin Newsom is he's actually backing it up with fighting fire with fire.
Yes, he is.
Because he's got this plan to push back against the Republicans' gerrymandering, and he's going through with it. And I mean, a lot of people are like, finally,
I don't think it's a bad
doing
thing
something
necessarily.
Here. About this craziness. But the cheers that I had this week were the Texas Democrats who left the state in order to bring attention to the craziness, what the Republicans were doing and trying to gerrymander in the middle of the decade. And they came back. And then one of them in particular, Representative Nicole Collier, when the governor of Texas said to all of the Texas Democrats, you're going to have to be monitored while you're here in Texas before this vote by the sheriff's department and the police. They're going to follow you everywhere, I guess. And she said, I don't agree to that. And I'm not leaving. And so I won't, they wouldn't let her out of the state house, and she decided to sleep there. And then all of these other, Democrats came in and did it with her in sort of a protest. And I just think, we got to have leaders that are willing to do those sorts of things to bring attention.
This is a huge cheers, but I want to let you know something, Amy, and people can say what they want. I'd have been arrested. There is no way that I had somebody follow me. And if they tried to follow me, I would have tried to get away from them. I would have evaded them because I know how. They're dumb. I would have left that. I'm about to curse. I better not. But you want to hold me back? You have to arrest me. You get to beat me. And I can't believe that we're in a country that they had a permission slip or had to be followed. It just shows that Texas is broken. F that. I got to tell you, I'm so angry about it. I don't have the words. There'd have been fights. I tell you what, I'd have fought people. And the fact that they could keep it together like that, cheers to them. For not having violence, because Denver would have been violent. Cheers.
Agree. Cheers. All right.
Wow.
Great awesome show, Denver.
My gosh, thank you. And I know that it's been a while for me, and I apologize. It's been a minute, but and it's just my life right now, Amy, because I know me and you actually have lives. we have a lot to do. But if people want to hear great stuff like this, they have to subscribe. Right? They have to listen. And I know we're not screaming and hyperbolic. I know we don't have, the dumb things that people put there to get clicks, but we are here to help people. And I hope they come on and listen to us as we try to use facts and data to push through a message of sanity. And they're going to have to go on YouTube and subscribe. They're going to have to look at all of our socials like X, right? Like Blue Sky, but also True Social, but also podcasts. They need to download our podcast and listen to us. And I hope they do.
Yeah, and we have a Substack now.
So and a Substack now. I mean, my God, we're everywhere.
Be a part of that. All right.
Yeah, that's right. And we're going to be on, hopefully we get CBS Late Night, me and you. So that's next, right? That's next.
That'd be great.
That is great. That is great.
My schedule.
But cheers. Great show, Amy. Thank you.
All right.
This was wonderful. Cheers. We hope to see everybody on the flip.
Truth in the barrel, everyone.
Truth in the barrel.